Genesis 7, Genesis 12, chapter 12, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Abram, "Depart from your land and from your kindred, and from your father's house, and come into the land that I will show you." Chapter 12, verse 2. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and magnify your name, and you will be blessed. Chapter 12, verse 3. I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who curse you, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. Chapter 12, verse 4. And so Abram departed just as the Lord had instructed him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Chapter 12, verse 5. And he took his wife Sarai, and Lot, the son of his brother, and all the substance which they had come to possess, and the lives which they had acquired in Haran, and they departed in order to go to the land of Canaan. And when they arrived in it, chapter 12, verse 6, Abram passed through the land even to the place of Shechem, as far as the famous steep valley. Now at that time the Canaanite was in the land. Chapter 12, verse 7. Then the Lord appeared to Abram, and he said to him, "To your offspring I will give this land." And there he built an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. Chapter 12, verse 8. And passing on from there to a mountain, which was opposite the east of Bethel, he pitched his tent there, having Bethel to the west, and Hai on the east. He also built an altar there to the Lord, and he called upon his name. Chapter 12, verse 9. And Abram traveled, going out and continuing further on, toward the south. Chapter 12, verse 10. But a famine occurred in the land, and Abram descended to Egypt to sojourn there, for famine prevailed over the land. Chapter 12, verse 11. And when he was close to entering Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "I know you to be a beautiful woman." Chapter 12, verse 12. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, "She is his wife," and they will put me to death and retain you. Chapter 12, verse 13. Therefore I beg you to say that you are my sister, so that it may be well with me because of you, and so that my soul may live by your favor. Chapter 12, verse 14. And so, when Abram had arrived in Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was exceedingly beautiful. Chapter 12, verse 15. And the princes reported it to Pharaoh, and they praised her to him. And the woman was inducted into the house of Pharaoh. Chapter 12, verse 16. In truth, they treated Abram well because of her. And he had sheep and oxen and male donkeys, and men servants and women servants, and female donkeys and camels. Chapter 12, verse 17. But the Lord scourged Pharaoh and his house with great wounds because of Sarai, the wife of Abram. Chapter 12, verse 18. And Pharaoh called Abram, and he said to him, "What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me she was your wife?" Chapter 12, verse 19. For what reason did you claim her to be your sister, so that I would take her to me as a wife? Now therefore, behold your mate, receive her, and go. Chapter 12, verse 20. And Pharaoh instructed his men about Abram, and they led him away with his wife and all that he had. Genesis 13. Chapter 13, verse 1. Therefore Abram ascended from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, toward the southern region. Chapter 13, verse 2. But he was very wealthy by the possession of gold and silver. Chapter 13, verse 3. And he returned by the way that he came, from the meridian into Bethel, all the way to the place where, before he had pitched his tent between Bethel and Hai. Chapter 13, verse 4. There, at the place of the altar he had made before, he again called upon the name of the Lord. Chapter 13, verse 5. But Lot also, who was with Abram, had flocks of sheep and cattle and tents. Chapter 13, verse 6. Neither was the land able to contain them, so that they might dwell together. Indeed, their substance was so great that they could not live in common. Chapter 13, verse 7. And then there also arose a conflict between the shepherds of Abram and of Lot. Now, at that time, the Canaanite and the Perizzite lived in that land. Chapter 13, verse 8. Therefore Abram said to Lot, I ask you, let there be no quarrel between me and you, and between my shepherds and your shepherds, for we are brothers. Chapter 13, verse 9. Behold, the entire land is before your eyes. Withdraw from me, I beg you. If you will go to the left, I will take the right. If you choose the right, I will pass to the left. Chapter 13, verse 10. And so Lot, lifting up his eyes, saw all the region around the Jordan, which was thoroughly irrigated before the Lord overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It was like the paradise of the Lord, and it was like Egypt, approaching toward Zoar. Chapter 13, verse 11. And Lot chose for himself the region around the Jordan, and he withdrew by way of the east. And they were divided, one brother from the other. Chapter 13, verse 12. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan. In truth, Lot stayed in the towns that were around the Jordan, and he lived in Sodom. Chapter 13, verse 13. But the men of Sodom were very wicked, and they were sinners before the Lord beyond measure. Chapter 13, verse 14. And the Lord said to Abram, after Lot was divided from him, Lift up your eyes and gaze out from the place where you are now, to the north and to the meridian, to the east and to the west. Chapter 13, verse 15. All the land that you see I will give to you, and to your offspring even forever. Chapter 13, verse 16. And I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth. If any man is able to number the dust of the earth, he will be able to number your offspring as well. Chapter 13, verse 17. Arise and walk through the land in its length and breadth, for I will give it to you. Chapter 13, verse 18. Therefore, moving his tent, Abram went and dwelt by the steep valley of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and he built an altar there to the Lord. Genesis 14, chapter 14, verse 1. And it happened in those days that Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of the nations. Chapter 14, verse 2 went to war against Bera, king of Sodom, and against Birsha, king of Gomorrah, and against Shinab, king of Admah, and against Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and against the king of Bela, which is also called Zor. Chapter 14, verse 3. All these came together in the wooded valley, which is now the Sea of Salt. Chapter 14, verse 4. For they had served Chedorlaomer for 12 years, and in the 13th year they rose up against him. Chapter 14, verse 5. Therefore, in the 14th year, Chedorlaomer arrived, and the kings who were with him, and they struck the Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Zuzim with them, and the Emim in Shaveh Kiriathaim. Chapter 14, verse 6. And the Corians in the mountains of Seir, even to the plains of Paran, which is in the wilderness. Chapter 14, verse 7. And they returned and went to En-Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and they struck the entire country of the Amalekites, and the Amorites who dwelt in Hazazontamar. Chapter 14, verse 8. And the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is also called Zoar, went out, and they prepared for battle against them in the wooded valley. Chapter 14, verse 9. Namely, against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of the nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Chapter 14, verse 10. Now the wooded valley had many tar pits, and the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah turned their backs and fell into them, but the remainder fled to the mountain. Chapter 14, verse 11. Then they took away all the substance of the Sodomites and the Gomorrites, and all their provisions, and they went away. Chapter 14, verse 12. And they also took away Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who lived in Sodom, and his substance. Chapter 14, verse 13. And behold, someone who had fled told Abram the Hebrew, who lived in the valley of Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Aner. These were the ones who had formed a pact with Abram. Chapter 14, verse 14. When Abram had heard this, namely, that his brother Lot had been taken captive, he numbered of the servants born in his house 318 well-trained men, and he pursued them even to Dan. Chapter 14, verse 15. And dividing his company, he rushed upon them at night, and he struck them, and he pursued them as far as Hobah, which is to the left of Damascus. Chapter 14, verse 16. And he brought back all the substance, and Lot his brother, with his substance, likewise the women and the people. Chapter 14, verse 17. Then the king of Sodom went out to meet him, after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer and the kings, who were with him in the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's valley. Chapter 14, verse 18. But Melchizedek, the king of Salem, bringing forth bread and wine, for he was a priest of the Most High God. Chapter 14, verse 19, blessed him, and he said, Blessed be Abram by the Most High God, who created heaven and earth. Chapter 14, verse 20. And blessed be the Most High God, through whose protection the enemies are in your hands. And he gave him tithes from everything. Chapter 14, verse 21. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the souls, and take the rest for yourself. Chapter 14, verse 22. But he responded to him, I lift up my hand to the Lord God, the Most High, the possessor of heaven and earth. Chapter 14, verse 23, so that, from the very thread to the strap of a shoe, I will not take anything from all that is yours, lest you say, I enriched Abram. Chapter 14, verse 24, except what the young men have eaten, and the portion which pertains to the men who came with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. These shall take their portion.